Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews. Marvel's Avengers Endgame is coming up really soon, and there are a ton of theories and questions lingering about the movie. Now, rather than relying on some anonymous, random, supposed plot leak on Reddit, I do believe that Marvel's TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might have actually given us a potential major clue for Avengers Endgame. If this clue does pan out to be true, then there are a number of interesting possibilities that Endgame could bring forth that will be sure to amaze fans from beginning to end. I'll explain what that clue may be and what it could mean for Avengers Endgame coming up next. First and foremost, let me just say that this video is obviously going to contain a bunch of spoilers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and maybe for Avengers Endgame if any of what I'm about to discuss ends up being true. So please take this as your spoiler alert and be advised if you don't want things ruined for you. Now, if you don't care, let's begin. Alright, so let me just start off by saying that I know I'm like almost a whole year too late, but I finally got around to binge watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I admit that when the show first came out, I only watched the first season, got bored, and gave up on it. Then, once it was announced that Captain Marvel was going to have a movie, I decided to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. another shot. To my surprise, the show got progressively better and better. As a matter of fact, I think that the very last episode of season 5 probably included a very interesting clue that might affect the entire MCU. That interesting clue that I'm referring to is how time might actually work in the MCU. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, I've said a number of times that time travel in movies is always a messy ordeal, mainly because time travel is really theoretical at this point, and there are a lot of logical contradictions that tend to come along with it. Either way, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did attempt to take a stab at time travel, and if what they prove is true, I do believe that it would have to play out similarly in Avengers Endgame. Otherwise, Marvel would have a really interesting mess on their hands if their TV show and movies treated time in different ways. Now, just a fair warning, I'm going to do my best to explain some theories of time travel in this video, and I'm hopefully going to try and keep it as simple as possible. I don't know about you, but the deeper I start to think about this kind of stuff, the quicker my brain starts to turn to mush. Alright, now let me give you a little bit of background information so we can all be on the same page. Back in season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the team was dealing with the concept of space-time. Daisy had received a possible glimpse into the future. She believed that she could change the future until Agent Fitz explained to the team that that won't be possible.
Get there in time.
Guys, there is no time. She glimpsed the fourth dimension. Time is an illusion. It's how we perceive the fourth dimension. Simmons.
It's mathematics. He's talking about space-time.
How can I explain this? Right. We're 3D, yeah? Okay, but imagine we lived in a two-dimensional existence. Flat, just like a piece of paper. We wouldn't be able to conceive of 3 dimensions, of a cube or anything that's not two-dimensional, okay?
Yeah.
Right, so we flat paper people would perceive this 3-dimensional cube as many separate 2-dimensional moments, as time passing, the point on the line, traveling through space and time.
But in fact, the cube, the line, is fixed.
Yeah, it's just sitting there. There's no future, there's no past, it just is. And nothing you can do will change that.
What Fitz is actually describing is the fixed theory, which is one of the 3 most common theories of time travel that have been used in movies. The fixed theory basically says that regardless of what anyone does, including going back into the past, nothing will change the events of the present or future. So if Fitz is right about time being fixed, then that would mean that even if the Avengers went back into time to stop Thanos, no matter what they did, they would not be able to save their friends and undo the snap. Now, when we fast forward to the final episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, the agents were able to travel back in time and alter the events of the future. In doing so, the agents ended up creating a new timeline. But that's not all. Not only did they create a new timeline, but we were also left with 2 different versions of Agent Fitz existing at the same time. One was future Fitz and the other one was a couple of months younger. Now, if you're confused by any of that, you'll just have to watch the show so that it'll make a lot more sense. But just stick with me for now. Anyway, with a new timeline created and the existence of two Fitzes, we might have some confirmation of yet another time travel theory. That other theory is the multiverse theory. The multiverse theory is a very common one familiar to comic book fans. It basically says that there are an infinite amount of parallel universes and timelines. Also, if a time traveler were to alter time, only the new timeline would be affected. So maybe Fitz was indeed wrong about time being fixed. Maybe it's the multiverse theory that is the one that operates within the MCU. So what does this mean for Avengers Endgame? Well, it could mean a couple of things. If the Avengers do end up doing some time traveling to stop Thanos, we could have a situation that could allow for two or more versions of the same characters to exist at the same time. Maybe we see the Avengers meet their younger or future selves. An interesting implication with this multiverse theory is that we could easily see some of our favorite heroes die right in front of our eyes. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we saw that future Fitz did indeed die, while the other Fitz was still alive, frozen, floating in space. Maybe some similar fate could befall the likes of Tony Stark. Maybe one of the past versions of Captain America dies, then the current version will choose to go back into the past and live out his life with Peggy. Check out my Captain America time travel theory for more on that. Now, like I said before, time travel in movies gets really messy, and you know what, we do start to run into a bunch of logical contradictions. But since we're already down this rabbit hole, let me throw one more possibility at you. And this possibility is what I believe probably might be the strongest clue for how time works in the MCU. Remember in Infinity War when Doctor Strange was looking at 14,605 possible futures involving how the Avengers could defeat Thanos? Well, the key thing to understand here is that he was talking about possible futures. Keep that in mind as we go back to what happens in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When the agents do their time jump into the future, they didn't actually jump into a fixed future, nor did they jump into an alternate future. They jumped into a possible future where the Earth was destroyed. When they returned to their current timeline and made different decisions, they ended up altering the current timeline. With the idea of possible timelines and altering the current timeline, we can look beyond the fixed and the multiverse theory and instead think about the dynamic theory. In the dynamic theory, one could definitely go back into the past and their actions could alter the present or future. By doing so, any other potential futures would theoretically cease to exist. It would essentially suggest that time is actually fluid. Now let's go back to Doctor Strange. Remember how he said that there was only one future that he saw the Avengers winning? Well, if the Avengers do what needs to be done, then they could definitely change the present and eliminate those 14,604 possible futures where Doctor Strange foresaw them losing. There could be a downfall with all this though. Within the dynamic theory, there is the possibility of creating time paradoxes. A time paradox would be a logical contradiction associated with time travel. For example, in Back to the Future, Marty altered the past and changed the timeline where he literally didn't exist, despite the fact that he did exist. Boom, he became a time paradox. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a similar situation in the final season with the character of Deke. Deke is the grandson of both Fitz and Simmons, but Deke came about from the possible future that the agents have now eliminated from existence. Deke now exists in a timeline where he's not supposed to ever exist. So he's a walking time paradox. So the dynamic theory could play a very interesting role in Avengers Endgame. If the Avengers do some time traveling, and let's say some of them don't make it out alive, maybe one of our heroes becomes a time paradox. Imagine if the Hulk in some way became a time paradox in a world where he technically never existed. Except of course he does exist, and he's in a world where people don't know about him or hate him, and he can live a life of quiet peace. Look, anything is possible at this point when you throw time travel in the mix. For all we know, with the Avengers supposedly involving the quantum realm and time vortexes, maybe all of these theories can go right out the window. I'm not a scientist and I'm in the dark about what happens in Avengers Endgame just as much as most of you might be. I've always believed, however, that with this current phase of the MCU ending and the new phase beginning, Marvel is going to have to find a way to get rid of the main Avengers in a satisfying way to make room for the new characters. Otherwise, whenever something happens in the future, we're just all going to be sitting there wondering, where's Captain America and where's Iron Man to come and help? Maybe time travel can provide some other answers in the MCU, like what is going on with some of the Disney Plus TV shows that are coming up, or maybe even the new Spider-Man Far From Home movie. It was said that Far From Home takes place minutes after the events of Avengers Endgame. So what if what we're seeing in Far From Home is actually just the altered timeline that was created? Anyway, I sure hope that whatever Avengers Endgame chooses to do, if they even bother with time travel, that they at least make it simple enough for people to understand. Thankfully, and I do believe this, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. proved that there's at least hope for the future to be changed. At the same time, I think the TV show also proved that with that change can also come some bittersweet consequences. So what do you think Avengers Endgame will do if they explore time travel? Do you think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. provided some possible clues as to how time might actually work in the MCU? Do you think that they'll go with the comic book favorite multiverse theory? Or will they do a little bit more complex of an approach by doing the dynamic theory? Or maybe do you believe there won't be any time travel involved at all? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, because I'm pretty sure some of you are way smarter than me and probably have way more interesting ideas than I do. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Just a quick note, I will be seeing Avengers Endgame just a little bit sooner than most people. Perks of being a movie critic. Anyway, if you're not already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and become a member of the E-Team. Get those notifications turned on too, because I will most definitely be giving you all my spoiler-free reactions and review as soon as I'm able to see Avengers Endgame. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.